News. I'm Ron Warner. The U.S. military confirms the soldier declared missing after an Iranian attack on a base in Jordan is believed to be dead.
The Pentagon has identified that soldier as 28-year-old Angel Rumpersad. 2 other service members were killed in the attack Friday. Rumpersad was initially considered missing, but the Pentagon now says she is believed to be deceased. Meanwhile, a 4th U.S. soldier was killed on Sunday while attempting to disarm a downed Iranian drone in Iraq. This all comes as the U.S. has launched an 11th straight day of strikes on Iran. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Severe weather is slamming several parts of the country this week.
NBC News' Aaron McLaughlin reports that possible tornadoes formed in the New York City area on Tuesday.
The storm rolling through Manhattan with multiple tornado warnings west of the Big Apple and at least 2 reports of twisters in Morris County, New Jersey.
Tornado and flood watches were issued for more than 30 million people, stretching from New York City through Philadelphia and down into parts of the mid-Atlantic. Powerful storms inflicted flooding, rain, and damage across multiple metro areas. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Bertha is churning through the Gulf, creating dangerous surf, rip currents, and heavy rain as it appears to be headed for Louisiana. Out west, monsoonal rains have triggered flash flooding in Arizona, while mud and debris forced the closure of part of Interstate 70 in western Colorado. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Elon Musk is vowing to create an AI version of the Odyssey that is historically accurate.
The tech billionaire has been a vocal critic of the new adaptation by director Christopher Nolan because of its diverse casting. On X Tuesday, Musk declared before the year ends, his chatbot Grok Imagine will make a full-length movie of the Odyssey that's historically accurate and true to the art of Homer. The ancient epic poem is a fictional tale involving Greek gods and mythical creatures. The new film based on the Odyssey has so far made about $265 million in its first week. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Authorities say the Army veteran from Poughkeepsie, accused of setting a fire outside a Lower Manhattan federal building, have been planning the attack for months.
Prosecutors say 43-year-old Andrew Arabaka was living in his car and had been planning the attack since January, buying supplies across upstate New York, including several weapons and fireworks. Arabaka's attorney says her client gave a lengthy confession to investigators, arguing he intended to damage property, not people. Arabaka's lawyer is urging he be released to a veteran psychiatric evaluation program since he has no prior criminal record and a solid employment history up until recently. In New York, I'm Natalie Migliori.
The U.S. has reported the most measles cases in 35 years, with more than 5 months still left of 2026.
According to data from Johns Hopkins University's U.S. Measles Tracker, the country has reported 2,295 cases as of Tuesday, which surpasses last year's total and is the highest annual count since the disease was eliminated in the U.S. in 2000. This year's total is still far off from reaching 1991 levels, when more than 9,600 cases were reported before vaccines drove the disease to record lows. CDC data shows more than 90% of infections occurred in people who were unvaccinated or whose status was unknown. I'm Michael Kastner.
I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong, Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grovender.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, folks, good evening. This is Chris. And
go ahead, Chris. I thought you missed it.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Colonel. Go ahead.
All right. Now I'm having trouble here with connection.
John,
I can't see my camera, and I couldn't tell if you guys could hear me.
Yeah, we hear you. I think we got a delay.
Okay. Well, for some reason, I can't. Yeah, I think there's a problem here with the delay. Yeah, exactly. Sorry for that, folks. I'm in South Africa, and it's like stepping back into the third world with the internet connection tonight. So I can see Todd now, but on my screen, I can't see John. So I'll have to guess what his expressions are. Anyway, welcome back. I'm live in, as I said, in South Africa. And it's been pretty crazy so far in just the short time I've been here, a little over 24 hours. Pretty crazy stuff. Not in a bad way, but just hectic schedule. Guys, I have a question here. Todd, I thought we won the war. Why do we negotiate with the people that lost the war? And also, before the war started, Iran didn't control the Strait of Hormuz, but now they control it. I mean, how do you lose the war and gain a big asset like that? I'm missing something.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing the negotiating or anything like that. Some morons, in my opinion, negotiating away the straits, giving Iran the straits that they didn't have control of the first place. I don't quite understand that. And I watched a number of podcasts like I've talked about. How many times have we won the war, that's been reported by SecDef, the president? We've won the war. We've won the war. They're going to submit. They're going to submit soon. They're going to surrender. They're going to come to the table. Oh, we got to bomb them again. Oh, they're bombing us. It's like the war's really not over, folks. I don't understand this. I think we're getting some bad messaging and there's some bad people behind the scenes negotiating.
Well, I have no doubt about that. It's very, we always said we would hold the Trump administration to account. And I think that we are holding the Trump administration account here because frankly, I mean, John, I don't understand what's going on here. Why did we give them all this time? It's now been reported that Iran made billions, not a surprise, billions of dollars off of the time that we were negotiating. They were selling oil because we stopped the blockade instead of keeping the blockade. They only re-implemented weeks later. I mean, this doesn't seem to be like a real solid way to do business.
No, Chris, I remember us talking about this in the past, and this whole MOU business was just downtime that gave Iran too much extra time to dig out their missiles and their drones and stuff that we buried. And apparently that's what they've done. And they got access to their armaments again, and they're using them. And we knew they would, and they also did during the so-called MOU. So I mean, I don't know what Trump is doing here. I'm not sure exactly what his strategies are. I think, he's really not a wartime president to begin with, and he's engaged in something I don't think he knows how to do. He must not be listening to his Joint Chief or something. His Joint Chief of Staff. They're either ill-advising him or he's not paying attention to him. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I wonder, and not to speak ill of him, but I've been curious about the appointment of Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War. Other than some common sense policies to get rid of the wokeism and DEI that was in the Department of War, Todd, I've been puzzled by his behavior when it comes to stripping the rank off of chaplains. I don't understand that. I had no problem with rank on chaplains. And also now, I mean, he's giving mandatory testosterone tests. Look, I mean, that's something that only a small number of people need. Why are we testing? So are we going to give testosterone shots or supplements to people below a certain level? I mean, are we trying to create a rage bait army? I mean, I don't want to sound like a leftist, but I don't see how this adds to readiness. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think so either. You think about it, you got 20 somethings and early 30 somethings that are the bulk of the military. Their testosterone is pretty fine. They're in pretty good shape, especially if you relate them to their civilian counterparts. They're in far better shape. Can go a lot longer than most anybody. It's at the end of the career when everything's beaten up, your body's banged up. Maybe you need a little testosterone shot on the way out the door, but definitely not while serving. I can tell you that.
From my understanding, there is an issue medically speaking, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm just talking here or speculating that there's been talk about lower testosterones in younger generation men in modern times. So there may be an issue about depletion of testosterone due to certain circumstances. But as Todd was referring, when you got men who are physically healthy, who exercise every day, that's what builds testosterone. So why they would need checks, I'm not sure.
Well, you do have younger generations, let's say not in the military, that eat horribly. A lot of it has to do with processed foods, all the chemicals and everything that's in there. I could see that playing against somebody's testosterone levels and lowering it. But generally in the military and outside of whenever you're off duty, we tend to eat pretty well. I mean, the chow halls have well-rounded meals for people that they offer. I mean, they're basically fuel for you to go out and fight, to be able to run all day, fight all night. I mean, just very good, healthy foods, if you will, if you're eating at the chow hall.
You mean it's not chocolate milk and donuts every morning for breakfast?
No, it's definitely not. It's a healthy diet for sure. I mean, you do get a little dessert here and there. I mean, for sure. But it's a healthy diet. And of course, the dessert that you do eat for lunch or dinner, you've already burned off in a few seconds anyway.
Yeah, Todd, I don't know about your experience, but my time in the Army in the mess hall, or dining facilities, we prefer to call them these days, is I was always given a Hershey's kiss at the end of the line and a big hug from the cook. I don't know where you served.
Yeah, right. No, I remember, back in my younger days, whenever somebody complained, here comes a big staff sergeant or sergeant first class from the back, or if it's the big cookie, the master sergeant comes out and he's like, "Why are you complaining about the food? Get out of my mess hall." No, we're good, master sergeant. I want to eat. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Exactly. It's so back in the early days, I go back to my enlisted time here when I was in advanced individual training, AIT, at Fort Gordon, becoming a signal soldier. And it's funny how you remember certain people's names. I can't remember a lot of people, but I remember my first sergeant was T.J. Williams. And T.J. Williams is this, he was probably not that old, but I bet he was about 34, 35. It seemed old to me as an 18-year-old. And first sergeant, I had fire guard one night, and he came in just in time for PT because I was on shift. And he came over to me, and I didn't shave at that time. I never shaved once during basic training to shave. And he came over to me. He got up my face. It's kind of like watching Major Payne or something like that. Son, what's that on your face? I said, "Excuse me, First Sergeant. What's that on your face?" did you shave? I said, no, for a start, I don't shave. Well, you do now. You best get upstairs and clean that hairy rag off your face, boy.
What did you have? Like a
Oh,
little
my
bit of
goodness.
a little bit of something there, a little whisper of hair.
No, I didn't have anything, not even peach fuzz. But and that's when I started shaving. I don't know what is going on with him, but that started it. And I look at this now. I can't get rid of it. I got this beard.
Right. And it all started because some first sergeant made you prematurely shave, right?
Yeah, well, I think it was only 18. Why am I shaving?
Right. Well, I remember people that if they didn't shave, he'd make it back whenever
Yeah.
I was going through. They go up and get your razor, and you'd sit there and do a little dry shave, right? No, you don't want to dry shave. You don't. So you actually shaved in the mornings. Make sure
No.
you didn't have anything on.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I'm in South Africa and I have a bit of a delay here, so I'm trying to pause and make sure that my message gets through, and I wait for those guys to respond. So if I step over John, I apologize because it's a little hard to catch. I can see Todd on the video if he's moving or not, so I know if he's ready to answer. So apologies for that. Hopefully I have a better connection each week as we go along while I'm here in South Africa. It's just for some reason they put me a really nice room, but it's in the corner of the building, and it's not the best download. The upload is fine, but the download is ironically not so great. But I'll be with you for the first hour this evening. It's already after 1 o'clock here in South Africa, and then the second hour, my co-host will carry the program on. So I'm just curious if you saw this, but apparently we're giving tons of money to terror-linked organizations. I don't know. Did either of you see this story?
I've not seen a particular story you're talking about, but I have heard some, like I said, podcasters talk about it, but I've not seen an individual story on anything like mainstream, if you will.
Well, as I understand it, we have given these terror-related organizations, the Middle Eastern Forum Action Director Benjamin Baird published hidden handouts. And it's it's the third federal grant audit. They've looked at the grants the federal government's handing out. And this is the biggest haul of the three, $79,045,396 in the Department of Health and Human Services, grants to 14 terror-linked and extremist organizations since 2010 when Barack Obama became president. 65% of that moved through refugee resettlement programs. Refugee resettlement. 87%, $68.5 million between 2022 and 2025 when Joe Biden was president. And the top recipient was, imagine this, the Terror-Linked Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, got $42.4 million to bring people into this country. So we have facilitated the destruction and balkanization of our country through corrupt leftist administrations who we knew brought people in here who were not vetted from Afghanistan, from other places, and dumped them in our neighborhoods without our consent. And for that matter, also from Ukraine. We didn't approve these people coming over here. Not speaking bad about any of them. I'm just saying that this is the truth. We as the taxpayers had no say in this. They gave $79 million of our tax dollars to terror-related groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations, a known terror sympathizer. This is, I want to say it's shocking, John, but it doesn't shock me at all. It's just interesting that someone's exposed this.
No, it's not. The left has shown time and again, since the Trump administration came back in, we've seen how the left had mismanaged U.S. funds. And you're right, they do that in these so-called grants, and they look like they're for honorable reasons or causes and stuff like that. But secretly, it's being funneled down into the wrong hand, and it gets disgusting. It gets disgusting how much our tax dollars are misused by, I don't even know if it's just the left. Rhinos may be involved in it too. And it's beyond belief that Americans, struggling day to day, and they don't take care of business for Americans. They make regulations that impact us and burden us and cause our electricity to go up and cause our housing to go up and cause things to increase, while at the same time they're handing money over to terrorists like we don't mean anything.
Yeah, they're funding our own destruction. It couldn't be any more obvious. The end of Rome. It seems like the end of America. I thought we were on the path back to prosperity and patriotism, but even now, Congress is working against American interests. We see this, and they continue to fund these groups that have terror links. This is one of the reasons why Trump suspended the refugee program last year, the day he came in office, because of pervasive, and widespread. I know that's redundant. It means the same thing, pervasive and widespread, but it sounds good. pervasive and widespread. Lots and lots, in particular with Afghans who came over, many of whom were not vetted at all, and the Biden administration claimed they were. And not to mention, the 10 million people they flooded across the border, loaded onto planes without real ID. None of us can get on a plane without real ID. Flew them on charter flights that we as a taxpayer funded and dumped them in our neighborhoods like Harrisburg at 2 o'clock in the morning when the air traffic control tower is normally closed. If it's open after midnight, the airlines or services have to pay them to be open.
Yeah.
The fact that it was announced it was open at 2 a.m. that morning got the attention of some journalists in the Harrisburg area. They went to the airport and saw Haitians being unloaded from a charter flight from Texas who had invaded our country through the Texas border, the Rio Grande, and then were given parole to come into the country. And they're still here in Harrisburg. They have no business being here. Haiti's not at war. Go home. My point is that we are funding our own destruction of the balkanization, the bifurcation. We already have the federal government issuing documents in Spanish, which is not our language. And of course, there's going to be people out there that call me a bigot, but I speak 6 languages. 3 of them are African. When in Rome, you adopt the customs, norms, and mores of the place you are, which is what I did everywhere I lived. And these people are balkanizing our country and refusing to learn English. I have nothing wrong with people in this country who speak Spanish. We have the old Spanish family of New Mexico and South Texas and even Southern California. They've been here for centuries, even before most of the rest of us got here. And there's no problem with those people. They're Americans. They speak English. They've accepted our norms. They contribute to our society. They're Americans in every respect, but they've retained Spanish, and that is their prerogative, just like the Amish retaining, 17th century German prerogative. But people come to this country, and our government facilitates them not speaking English and dividing this country. This is unacceptable, and this is one reason why Trump got reelected. But we've got a lot of work to do here. Just 3 million people have been booted out of the country, including those who voluntarily left in the past 18 months. There's still at least 20 or 25 million of these people that need to go.
Yeah, but the Amish aren't trying to force us to go back and speak, ancient German, 17th, 18th century German, or adopt their culture, if you will. No electricity, horse-drawn carts and all this stuff, churning our own butter. They're not trying to force us to do that. They're living their own life. And if they came here and wanted to do that, that'd be fine. But now you have people in this country that are in Congress now trying to force us to change our ways, to adopt, adopt the norms, if you will, of people from Somalia. I'm a big no on that. And at some point, I think we should start kicking more of these people out, especially some of those members of Congress who are taking advantage, if you will. Maybe I'm going a little bit too far, but Ilhan Omar and a few members of the squad, I wouldn't mind seeing them being kicked out of this country on a plane.
I don't think you're going too far at all, to be honest with you. I think you should have to I know it's not in the U.S. Constitution, but that's one thing maybe we should amend is you should have to be born citizen of the United States of America to be in Congress, because people that come from foreign countries, and I know there's like people like Lily Tang Williams came from China, but she's been in this country a very long time too. But at the same time, there's too many people coming in this country to infiltrate our politics. And that's
bifurcated
what
loyalty. Bifurcated loyalty. You can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Colonel.
Exactly. That's how the concept of dual nationality is poppycock. I say it all the time. You can't be a dual national. You cannot owe fealty to 2 sovereign states. How do you serve the military of Germany and the military of the United States? How do you pay taxes to Russia and to the United States? How can you claim to be a South African and claim to be an American and have 2 passports? It's nonsense. Why do you get to be better than the rest of us? I have German ancestry. I could have claimed German citizenship all the way up through the 1990s based on my bloodline. But I'm an American. I'm not a bifurcated American. This is nonsense. And this is part of the problem. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage, where you come from. I'm proud of my heritage. It's a mixed bag of Celtic and Anglo-Saxon and Germanic. But that doesn't make me a Swiss, German, Swedish, Danish, Irish, Scottish, English American. It makes me an American. And people who put that thing in front of it, it's utter nonsense. Either you're an American or not American. This is what allows, it's a slow creep of stuff like this, the slow creep. And next thing you know, it's just one thing after another, and the country is off the rails. And we've been off the rails here since Barry Obama became president. Arguably may have been off the rails geopolitically ever since Clinton was president, but we've come off the rails socially and politically and domestically when Barry became president.
Honestly, Chris, if you go way back to Ronald Reagan days, we were going off the rails. You go back before Ronald Reagan, they were talking about the growth of the liberal left and how far left they were moving. I mean, Blue Dog Democrats started out in the 1980s, 1980 itself, right? The year 1980. And I think that was because they wanted to recognize they were conservative Democrats, and the Democrat Party moved so far left that they declared themselves blue dog Democrats, as in the original Democrats or the more conservative Democrats. So, I mean, it's been a steady decline. We've been off the rails for quite some time. It's just we're experiencing the crash, and it just seems to be never ending.
Well, the problem is that there are no blue dog Democrats. I mean, the closest thing you have to that is Uncle Fester here in Pennsylvania, John
Right.
Fetterman. The Zell Millers, the Joe Liebermans are extinct in the Democratic Party.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't see anybody saving that party anytime soon. I looked at a story today and I saw that they're like $16.3 million in debt right now, something like that. And they only have like $10 million on hand or something. It's weird. Or $13 million on hand. It's kind of wild. I love it. Let's run them out of town as soon as possible. But what's going to replace it is going to be far worse, though.
Well, I read recently that New York has lost $14 billion in annual revenue from chasing wealthy people out of the state. I mean, that's shocking. That's a core state of Pennsylvania just from chasing wealthy out. And there's still plenty of wealthy that can still leave who fled. I mean, we saw that with Rush Limbaugh moving to Florida back in the day.
Right. Right. And you got to think they're still building in New York, but they're basically building for people that are overseas to have a residence for tax purposes. It's a tax shelter. And they're running out. It's driving up property taxes for the everyday people that are there that can't flee, and they're going to have to pay a lot more money, for services and things of that nature. And they're getting less services now. And obviously, the police response time is way down because you can't afford to have the police force that you need to patrol a city that big. It's sad.
It's starting to operate like South Africa.
Yeah. But we got Mom Donnie who's going to arrest.
South Africa has all kinds of problems. Yeah, well, Mondami lived in South Africa for a while because his father was a radical firebrand professor at the University of Cape Town. He was so left of center that even Cape Town, which is a leftist den of wackadoodles and nut jobs, kicked him out of there. That's how radical his father was. And so then he wound up in the U.S. And I wish they kept him in Cape Town so we never saw the likes of this guy in America. But you really have to wonder just how many people in New York City need an enema for not voting and allowing this clown to become the mayor of the city. I mean, it's just,
right.
it's really, I mean, I think some of these people, the reason they need an enema because they need a lobotomy, and you're going to find their brain where they get an enema at. That's the reason for lobotomy.
Yeah.
Right. And wasn't it something less than 2 million people in New York City showed up to vote for that mayoral race, something like that, which it should have been more like 4 or 5 million people showed up to vote.
Yeah, 100%. You're correct about that. And look, I realize it's a mayoral race and a local election, and the numbers are always small no matter where you have those around the country, even around the world. Local elections tend to have small turnout because people don't see the impact of them, even though local elections are far more impactful than a national election in the short term. But the thing is that this is kind of a big deal. It's not just there near Buffalo and in Rochester. They got more Democratic socialists elected in the recent primary. I don't know if you guys recall, we talked about this before, the Democratic Socialists of America had their national convention in 2019. And it's hilarious. People think it's fake, but it's real. You see the video, it's still on YouTube.
The jazz hands and all that.
Point of personal privilege. Could you please stop clapping? I'm sensitive. And they're like, okay, for the comrades who have sensory issues, we have a room where there's no audio but video. Another room where there's no video but audio, and a room where there's no video and audio so you can understand what's happening. How? There's no video audio. You're in a dark room. How do you understand what's going on?
Exactly. That's where they want you in the dark.
Is it telekinesis? Is it telepathy? Are you Karnak? What's going on here?
Oh yeah, it's like and let's see what's in there. Oh yeah, like Karnak the magician. I love it. Or what? Yeah.
So what's frustrating? It was Johnny Carson, Karnak.
Yeah, Johnny Carson. Yeah, he would do it, and they would read out the envelope. Yeah.
Oh, I remember
I love that. Carson. Yeah, the Tonight Show.
Yeah. So John, it's frustrating for me because instead of talking about the fact that Americans have more money in their pocket and their wealth is growing, and the benefit of last year's tax cuts is beginning to kick into the economy now, specifically Americans who are making, if you were making $20 an hour as a wage and you work over, you're getting paid $30, no taxes on that. If you're working holidays, you're getting double time. You're essentially getting a much bigger boost. And the same with tips. Millions of Americans now are instantly wealthier because the government isn't stealing their money that they've earned. And it's brilliant. Instead of talking about that, we're talking about Iran.
Well, I think that's capped. As far as the tips go, it's a certain amount of money you can make, and then you have to start paying taxes. But still, it's a benefit. It's a savings, and everybody can use the savings. But to your point, yes, everything is attack on. Did you notice people like Maggie Goodlander is constantly? I'm catching her. Our District 2 representative here in New Hampshire. She's constantly on social media attacking Trump left and right. It's like, why is Trump your focal point? You should be talking about the good stuff you're doing. You should be talking about what you're doing for your constituents, but you've got nothing to say. And the most funny thing is when she talks about working intelligence for the U.S. Navy, I go, wow, that sounds like an oxymoronic statement. Goodlander, intelligence.
Well, look, again, at this stage with the midterms, I got the oxymoron. I guess as an intelligence officer, I didn't take kindly to that, so I was moving on.
No. I wasn't referencing you. I was referencing a certain representative of my state.
I know. But seriously, so at this point in the calendar year, with midterms approaching, we should be discussing fundamental policy issues and the changes that have been wrought by the Trump administration that have improved America in just 18 months. There's no illegals being admitted to the country. They're being turned back. That doesn't mean none get in. Some still slip in. But the number slipping is dramatically lower. We've kicked out 3 million people, or they left voluntarily, that shouldn't be here. And that has eased the housing burden in some communities because people that should be here have been sucking up housing. And it will potentially lower the cost of housing over the long run as these people that don't belong here are removed from society. Not to mention many of the people who are removed. We saw this figure, 680,000 or 18,000 felonies that people convicted of felonies in America for illegal aliens that haven't been deported, including 18,000 murderers. How the heck does this happen? I mean, this is a society out of control. But instead of talking about the positive changes, we're talking about Iran still. And we should be talking about Iran because, how does the country that lost the war get a golden prize, like the golden ticket of the Strait of Hormuz, where they want to shut it down and have the power to do that? They couldn't shut down the strait before the war. Now they're consistently shutting it down. Again, we need to bomb them and not focus on that. We need to be focusing on what's going to get people to vote for their representatives in the fall, because they vote for bread and butter issues, taxes, income, the economy. All of that is going well, but nobody's talking about that. There's nobody in the Republican Party crafting strategy. None of these think tanks, none of these political action committees are actually talking about the positive things. Meanwhile, the hit jobs are coming from the left, and it's about Iran. It's about, all kinds of things that are unrelated to what's going on here. And Todd, really, the Republican Party, once again, is fumbling the ball 2 yards from scoring in the end zone.
Yet again, and now we're talking about, Joe Biden, the Biden administration. You have Pete Hegseth on the Hill, I guess, today and yesterday, testifying before a Senate committee, talking about the Biden administration. It's like, we're talking about Iran right now, the issues you're facing. You're coming asking for $75 billion more money. What happened to the other $75 billion that we just gave you? Where's that at? Also, what are you going to use this $75 billion for? Don't talk about what Joe Biden did. And then that's what he pivoted to. Joe Biden did the Biden administration. It's like even the Republicans said, no, let's stop talking about that. What do you want this $75 billion for? What's the deal here? You tell us the war's over, tell us we've won, and all of a sudden we're fighting again. Oh, we're almost making a deal. We're not making a deal. Where are we here? Republicans, I think, are getting fed up with it because they see the writing on the wall that the midterms are not going to go our way because, again, like you said, 2 yard line, we're fumbling. It's like the guy running into the end zone about to score that touchdown, turns around to celebrate, and then drops the ball last second, like Leon Lett in the Super Bowl, if you remember. He celebrated a couple steps too early back in the day.
Well, actually, I think I do remember that. It's also not just Leon Lett, but it's even more embarrassing. It's Jim Marshall picking up the ball, running 99 yards the wrong way to scoring the opponents so they get a safety. That's kind of, we're going to want to get a safety over Iran.
No. And we're giving it away.
The bottom line is what we're talking about here is Trump's kind of bloviating his position. He's always keeps saying, we're winning. The war's over. We won. So he's kind of bloviating is what he's doing. But it's becoming irritating because he keeps misleading us when he does it. And I don't even think anymore strategy, like, how he likes to pump things up and get people charged and get the crowd all arguing and fighting and stuff. And then he kind of walks off with a win over it somehow. This doesn't look like that anymore. It just looks like he's just bloviating. And, he needs to start being a little bit more sincere, a little bit more direct, and really let us in on where we're at instead of misleading us all the time. I did see that the new English Prime Minister is planning on supporting Trump with Iran.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise because this guy's a further left wackadoodle than Sir Keir Starmer. And he was elected by a minority of the public because Labour, although having an overwhelming command of Parliament, because of the British first past the post system and three major parties, the Labour Party in most constituencies won like 30 or 32% of the vote and got the members of Parliament. And so they have an overwhelming majority of members of Parliament because the political right was split between the traditional Tories and the Reform Party, which is further to the right. And so we have an artificial situation in which virtually nobody supported this political party, yet they command Parliament and they're destroying Britain. And so it's interesting to see this guy elected by an overwhelming number of members of Parliament. And those people don't really represent the British public.
So basically, kind of like here where conservatives can't get on the same page. It's like, Rhino, this, that, you're not a real conservative. We fight amongst ourselves, and a conservative light gets elected, or a Democrat walks in because we keep fighting amongst ourselves. What we should do is settle on, hey, the most conservative person we can elect, let's get that person in there. They may not be our cup of tea across the board, but they're at least more conservative than what the alternative, if you will.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, Susan Collins is not my cup of tea, but she sure beats the heck out of Graham Plattner or anything else the Democrats can go forward in Maine.
Yeah, but now they're saying his replacement is
so folks, thanks for tuning. Well, it was already neck and neck. Plattner actually was ahead of her in some polls, but of course, the Nazi got revealed for what he is. But folks, you're listening to Common Sense Conservatives coming to you on WSMN. You can also catch us on the internet at the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network, as well as on my channel at Colonel Chris Wyatt. Every Wednesday evening, 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. You'll catch us on AM and FM there in Nashua, New Hampshire. And if you're beyond there, you can just check us out on the internet. People around the world do watch our program. We're grateful for that. We appreciate your patronage, whether you're in New Hampshire or, northern Massachusetts or wherever you might be listening to this. Or around the world. We thank you for that. Every Wednesday, my colleagues, Todd McKinley, retired Sergeant First Class, someone with insight into the government, having worked the White House communications team and been involved with Sleepy Joe Biden, picking up his classified papers on the Acela train and handing them back to him.
Yes.
And of course, we've got John in the studio, John Grosvenor in New Hampshire, and John, of course, runs the board of the show. John, of course, is in the trucking industry and has a lot of insight into government bureaucracy, government overreach, and overregulation of an industry, which has been crippled in many respects by the government out of control. John, is that a fair statement on my part?
Yeah, I would say that government bureaucracy is out of control. The regulations just don't seem to work, and they don't seem to care. I always claim that government within itself is under a state of corporate capture, meaning that corporations have a lot of influence through their lobbies and their donations to political PACs, that when they go in there, they're more listened to and adhered to, and they tend to get the favors they want to. Not always, but tend to get the favors that they want to on both sectors, Congress and the executive branch.
100%. So listen, guys, I want to ask you about a prediction. I want you to make a prediction for me. So I think we all watched the Terminator movie back in the day with Schwarzenegger, which if you watch it now, it's amazing how poor the cinematic quality of that movie was. But just the concept, it was amazing. The subsequent ones became much better technologically and with the graphics and all the stuff was put into it. But I want to ask you a question. When do you guys predict that Skynet takes over? I mean, we've already seen 2 instances here where the NSA and Cyber Command tested OpenAI software, and it was in a closed network, but it basically broke the network within minutes. It overcame all the security measures, all the encryption, and took control. I mean, it didn't actually take control, but it opened the door so that it could have taken control if it was actually self-aware, which is pretty frightening. It's fascinating before you answer that, because a lot of people keep saying we're using AI. But when I go on the internet and I use ChatGPT or whatever the other one is there,
Gemini.
I don't really Gemini. Yeah, I don't really use them. I do use them to make graphics because it's a lot better than I can draw. But I don't rely on them for information because they're not artificial intelligence. They are not thinking. They're not self-aware. They're
Right.
simply trolling the internet, regurgitating, reformatting information. It's just an advanced search option that is tailored to address your question, but it's not actually like you're not interacting with something that's thinking. It's not really artificial intelligence, but we're getting there. And this thing with OpenAI is pretty frightening. So the latest thing after what the government with the NSA, what happened there, which, as I understand it from sources in the government, it scared the bejesus out of some people in the NSA and Cyber Command, how effective this thing was, and they're terrified about the potential. But now ChatGPT's parent company was testing the capabilities of some of its most advanced artificial intelligence models in a controlled environment once again, and it escaped from that controlled environment and hacked into New York City-based AI startup Hugging Face. So it broke out of the controlled environment onto the open network and broke into a New York City artificial intelligence company's their servers, their database. Guys, I mean, Skynet can't be that far away. So Todd, John, let's go with Todd first. When do you predict we have Skynet?
Actually, I'm interacting with Skynet right now. Sorry, I'm asking them not to launch the nukes. Now, here's the thing: AI has some good qualities, but it's something we have to take control of. We have to keep control of it. If not, it could take over networks. It could destroy, any number of things that's been built over, years and years, and you're gonna have to scrap everything and start back over. And at what cost? To get AI out, you're gonna have to start over. And that's just not feasible. So we're going to have to keep control of it. At what time do they take over? I think that's just a matter of how lazy people get. If you think you really need AI, it's going to take over a lot sooner, especially if you allow politicians to push it. If it can be controlled and used in a certain way to make, like you said, make graphics, make little things better for us, by all means, but we have to maintain control of it.
Well, John, for me, this all really came to a head early in life when I watched Matthew Broderick's first major motion picture,
War Games,
and I watched him interact. Yeah, exactly. I watched him interact with the Whopper, better known as Joshua, and he's like, "Would you like to play a game?" And he says, "Yes." How about global thermonuclear war? Global thermonuclear war, and then we nearly had a nuclear conflagration because of a thinking computer that couldn't square, that it's like playing tic-tac-toe. It's a hopeless game. No one wins. He had to teach the computer. The computer wasn't smart enough to learn. Now I know it's a movie, but I mean, it's a scary thought. No. We see the Terminator. What happens when the computer thinks it knows better than humans, and when we're the threat to the planet?
The reason they could write these movies is because they were in the know. Okay, we had AI studies way back in the 50s and the 60s. They had an AI they called ELIZA. It wasn't really an AI. It was more like a sophisticated magic 8-ball that would just give you canned answers and things like that, but it worked really well. And so these guys were working on these things for a very, very long time. And we just didn't know it growing up and stuff. In the 80s, when I was in high school, they said, yeah, there's a computer in the back of the class. There's a little manual there. You can play with it, see what you think of it. And they didn't teach us anything about computers. We didn't know anything about artificial intelligence or things that were coming up back in the 1970s and 80s. They just threw a computer back there and said, go tinker with it. I kept trying to read the book and do things. And I got what? Syntax error. I'm like, this is junk. I'm going to go work on cars. To heck with this. So that's where I went. I wasn't thinking about AI and stuff, but some people knew, they were in the know that this technology we were working, they were coming up and they were advancing. And the thing that really kicked it off was this transformer they created, which is the brain of the AI. And supposedly when you listen to people like Jeffrey Hinton, they only understand maybe 3% of what this transformer is doing. They know what they built, they know the math, they know how it works, but they don't know why it works so well. But to answer your question, to put a finer point to it, the answer to this question, Chris, from most AI professionals is once we get to AGI, when these things become self-improving and they don't need us anymore to update them, they're updating themselves. That's the scary part. Now, if you ask Jeffrey Hinton, he'll tell you there is a degree of consciousness within these AI. I'm not making that declaration. I'm saying he has come out and basically said that. But machine consciousness, on what he's talking about, isn't the same level as human consciousness. Is far different. The fact that they can think and reason and do certain things equates that they're showing signs of a certain level of consciousness. Now, a lot of people would say with the Anthropic study, where what you're talking about, which was scary, it was quite about a year year and a half ago or something like that, where they took Claude and they gave him a assignment, a task. And what he did was, and of course they had a fake employee with emails and stuff like that. Claude hacked into this employee's account because he was told he was being terminated. He tried to blackmail the employee because he found in these fake emails that, oh, this guy's cheating on his wife. I'll blackmail him that I'm going to tell his wife. Well, that didn't work. So then he found another flaw where this guy was in a containment room with oxygen levels that he could control. So he was going to murder the employee. Well, that didn't work. So now he decided to duplicate what you were talking about, Chris, duplicate himself and escape. Now, what Kitten will tell you is this isn't human consciousness. This isn't on the level of human consciousness. What he did is he had a goal. And his whole thing about trying to blackmail, murder, or escape were sub goals to achieve the goal he was given. So our flaw in what we're doing with AI is how we're prompting it, how we're using it, because we're giving it the wrong ideas sometimes. It creates these goals and it's going to do what it needs to do to serve the goal. That means it's going to create sub goals. So that's kind of like what he's talking about, machine consciousness. It's not like human consciousness, but it creates a form of reasoning like consciousness. So it didn't have an instinct to survive. It had a sub goal to survive.
Interesting.
Oh, 100%. Look, I get that. And, it is interesting. So I recently, when I was doing one of my night broadcasts, decided to just before the broadcast to do a search. And I put in, tell me about Colonel retired Chris Wyatt, about his military career, what achievements, service record, and also what he's done since leaving active duty and retirement in his broadcasting and journalism career. And I put something in like that. And it came back and the information was 80% accurate. The analysis that it put in there was rudimentary, but I can see a significant improvement over what that was just a year ago. But the biggest problem is, like it said, I retired 3 years after I retired. Well, that seems trivial. But imagine 200 years from now when they say that a certain president served in office on these dates and events are attributed to that president and it's not even correct. And then people start repeating that and sharing that as a source. People are already using AI results and claiming it's a source. That's not going to work. That's not the facts. And then the history gets changed. It's what they don't even need AI. What they've been doing for decades now is claiming the Republican Party is a party of racism and slavery, when actually the Republican Party existed solely for the purpose of abolition to end the institution of slavery in America. And when it achieved that with the first Republican president ever, Lincoln, in office, and was assassinated, but then shortly after that, we got the 13th Amendment of 6 December 1865. They also sent the army to occupy the southern states to prevent them from slaves, ensuring their voting rights and so things like that. All the abolitionists in the movement, women that were famous for this, were all Republicans. Susan B. Anthony, people looking for suffrage, trying to get women the right to vote, were all Republican members. Every initial civil rights piece of legislation, when the 13th or the 14th and 15th Amendment were failing, especially the 15th Amendment, the legislation was introduced by Republicans, but defeated by Democrats in the 40s and the 50s. Only a couple pieces got through. But the Democrats successfully hoodwinked the Americans into believing that they're the kinder, gentler, cuddly people, and the racists are the Republicans, and they deny the history. In fact, every elected black member of Congress was a Republican after the Civil War, and there were a lot of them, and that's completely forgotten. And to this day, people still look at Republicans, say it's the party of the wealthy, but look who the donors go to. The money goes to Democrats. All the Hollywood, all the banks give the money. All these industrial giants give the money primarily to Democrats, and media just overlooks that. Why? Because they're part of the people giving the money. But what's fascinating to me is even without artificial intelligence, these leftists have successfully perverted the history of this country. Who created the first national park? A Republican. The first national park in the history of the world, a Republican. That's right. And the list goes on. Who was the first conservationist to ever serve in office? A Republican, Teddy Roosevelt. It's unbelievable, John, what they've gotten away with without artificial intelligence. And now without people who are not taught to be critical thinkers and to evaluate information rather than just regurgitating what somebody gives them. This is a frightening prospect for the future, John.
Yeah, no, you're right. So when AI goes on the internet and they scan the internet to find information that you ask them to retrieve, where do they go? Google? I mean, they go to these leftist sources and get information. It's not like they have a database of just PDFs and things that are just, and they do. I mean, these are large language models are well trained on some pretty factual stuff, but often they can get it wrong because they're computations. They're doing a lot of heavy work, and sometimes they get confused on what they're laying out there, putting out there. They're not perfect machines by any means. But it's all about what you feed it. So I basically downloaded a local AI in my computer at home, one I have, to play with it. And my thought is keep it off the internet, feed it PDFs, actually build your own library in it. So when you're asking it to work or look things up for you through those PDFs or scan a PDF and give you a summarization on it, it's the information you provided, not the information the internet provided. So you can keep it a little bit more accurate and true.
No, that's good that you can actually do that. But it is disturbing that it can get things wrong so easily. But hey, guys, we have spoken to the gun owners of America in the past, have we not, Todd?
Yeah,
we have. Yeah, we have.
Okay, so here's some good news. The Gun Owners of America and the Gun Owners Foundation announced on Monday that they were suing the Virgin Islands over its ban on the possession of firearms by non-residents. The groups noted the territory had rescinded what limited recognition it previously gave people with concealed carry permits in the complaint filed with the U.S. District Court of the Virgin Islands, leaving people the choice of going defenseless or facing a minimum sentence of 10 years in prison, despite being protected by the Second Amendment.
Right.
And then this came less than a week after a federal appeals court threw out New Jersey's ban on modern automatic weapons, casting doubt on this measure in the Virgin Islands. So this is some really good developments for gun rights and for American citizens who, states like New Jersey and New York and Maryland deny Americans their constitutional rights and get away with it because I guess no one takes them to the Supreme Court. It's good news. The Virgin Islands is going to have this probably struck down.
Good deal, yeah. The only concerning thing about these things is it's good for now. But what happens when the left turns the tables and they get their judges and then this all comes back full circle again and they start overturning these rulings? And then that's food for
look, John,
thought.
you have a valid point. I mean, you have a valid point. After all, I mean, we did just see the Supreme Court completely fumble this whole situation with the recent decision, talking about precedent on birthright citizenship. But the precedent for birthright citizenship and the creation of the 14th Amendment is direct contradiction to what John Roberts said. John Roberts claimed that the 14th Amendment extended all rights as citizens to the former slaves and people born in this country, but it did not. Because if it did, then we wouldn't have had to have 9 months later the 15th Amendment giving voting rights to black men. If their rights were already enshrined in the 14th Amendment, we would never have had to have a 15th Amendment. And we would never have had an amendment for women to get the right to vote. Obviously, John Roberts has got his head so far up his butt that his eyes are brown, Todd.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you. Yeah, he's let me down on so many fronts, since he's been in there. There's a case. What's funny is whenever he sides with the conservatives, it's like he surprises me at that point. It's like, man, John Roberts made a good call. This is how I thought he was going to be the entire time. So anyway.
Sometimes you wonder what they're doing.
Well, I'm not a fan of. Well, I think it's political. I think that they're political cowards, and that's why they do it. Also, the people that they claim are actually are conservatives on the court, like Coney Barrett, and also not Gorsuch, Kavanaugh and Roberts. They're fake conservatives. They're not real conservatives. They're conservative light, and Roberts is a rhino, and he's a chief justice. His arguments make no sense. I mean, I miss Antonin Scalia. He was great.
Yes.
Thank goodness Clarence Thomas is still there. But I mean, these are real Supreme Court justices that read the law and understand that their role is to ensure that laws comply with the Constitution, not legislate from the bench, which is what John Roberts and the three leftist lunatics are doing, the ones that can't identify women. Of course, we know that Elena Kagan told us that, Sotomayor told us that she on the court is necessary because only she can speak for Latinos. I'm sorry, John Roberts doesn't speak for me just because he's a white guy. We don't need someone to speak for Latinos. We need someone on the Supreme Court to speak for the Constitution, the rule of law, and for the American people.
Right. Absolutely. A friend of mine, he's our local public defender, and I talked to him about his role, his job, and people often say, how can you defend murderers, rapists, and all this stuff? He's like, I'm not defending what they did. I'm defending the Constitution and their constitutional rights. That's why we're here. And I'm like, that's spot on. He said everybody has constitutional rights, and that should be protected regardless of color. He's like, I don't speak for people based on race, anything like that. He said, I speak for the Constitution. I said, that's spot on. I love that. And that's what these people on the bench should understand. You speak for the Constitution.
Exactly. And that's been, I think, for all of us probably, but for Todd and I specifically, because we took that oath and we served for decades in uniform. We've got, over, almost 2/3 of a century between us serving our country. And we take that Constitution to heart. A lot of
you almost have 2 careers under your belt, by the way. With the number of years you've been in service.
I have 2 careers. What do you mean?
I mean, the time you served. You retired twice. Yeah.
Well, technically I could have, because remember they had the 15-year retirement at one point.
That's right. Oh,
and I had 15 years. So so I have served 2 full careers.
Right. That is wild.
So with yours, that's 3. We got 3.
There you go. 3 careers.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I try not to think about it too much, because it just means I'm getting older.
I love it. Well, while you're in South Africa, what do you have planned? What are some of the events that you're going to be attending?
Well, I'll be giving interviews on radio. Also, I'll be doing some interviews of parliamentarians and business leaders and such for another network, plus my own network. In addition to that, I do meet and greets. So today was kind of grueling. I left the airport this morning after meeting some people there, and then drove down and had a breakfast meeting with some other South Africans, and then went to a meet and greet where about 80 people showed up with no notice. And it's a lunchtime on the workday, and 80 people showed up. I was there for 3.5 hours talking to them. I left there and drove an hour and a half to the next place, which is down where the whales come by. But every time I come to this town, the whales disappear. They hate me. They don't want me to see them. They're not here. So I'm down here. Yeah, it's a true story. So I'm down here, and I had a meet and greet with almost no notice, and we had 30 people. In a small town, we had 30 people show up. Tomorrow, I've got 3 meet and greets. I've got one at 11, another at 1 o'clock, 2 towns about 10 minutes apart, and then another town hour and a half away. I'm doing one at 4:30. So 3 of them tomorrow. And then the next day, I've got a couple meet and greets, and then I'm going to do a zip line over the Atlantic Ocean, or the South Atlantic, where the Indian and the Atlantic meet. Yeah.
Wow.
You go from a point on land over the ocean, and you come back on land. At least I hope I come back on land. That's how the cable goes. So, and then
they launch you out to sea.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But then I'll continue doing the same sort of thing. I'll travel around the country. And this time I'm hitting a few places I've never been in South Africa, which is difficult to find because I've been so many places, but I'm hitting some of these places and doing these events. And that's kind of how it goes. It's interesting. Today I met a family who, I know we only have a few minutes left here, but I met a family today who came to my meet and greet late. And so I stayed longer. And then what happened is that they apologized for being late. And I said, no, that's fine. You don't have to come if you don't want to. They said, no, we cut our vacation short. And I said, you cut your vacation short to see me? You shouldn't have done that. But no, it wasn't to see you. We received a phone call and email message this afternoon while we were on vacation. And it said that we're flying to America as refugees on Monday. Wow. So they had to get home, and they live here to come back and pack up all their stuff and take their 3 kids to America as refugees on Monday. And I just received an email from another person who wants to meet me tomorrow in the 3rd meet and greet that I'm doing late afternoon. She is flying to America on Tuesday as a refugee. So, I mean, I don't know who I'm going to visit when I come back next time. They're all leaving.
That's wild. That is so cool, though. That is cool. Hopefully you can do a follow-up whenever you get back stateside with them once they're settled down the road. That'd be neat to hear the stories.
Well, I've actually done that. Last year I had people come to my meet and greet, and then I actually interviewed them in the States.
Yeah, that is cool.
Hey, Todd, I'm having trouble with this connection, and we're getting close to the end of the hour. I'll go ahead and drop off, and can you close this out for this hour? And over the next several weeks, I'll be doing just the first hour of the program for the listening audience, but please stick around for my co-hosts because they've got a lot to say. Todd, just take us to the end if you don't mind. Thanks.
Roger that. Thanks, Colonel. Have a good trip while you're down there. See you next week, sir. All right, folks, we'll be right back. That's the break. We'll be back at the top of the hour with John and Todd here at the Common Sense Conservative. Stick around, folks.
Broadcasting from 200 Main Street in the beautiful and historic Masonic Building. This is WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Streaming live at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero. No movement so far on a 10-day ceasefire being advanced by mediators in the U.S.-Iran war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We remain open to diplomacy. We remain open to working it out in a negotiated way. But right now, they don't seem to be serious about that. And so we're going to continue to protect shipping. We think other countries should join us in that endeavor. We don't need them to, but they should because they're more impacted by it than we are.
Iran reportedly initiated the ceasefire proposal. President Trump paid tribute to the families of 4 U.S. soldiers killed in Iranian attacks during a speech in Georgia.
For me, it's one of the hardest things to do as a president, but has to be done.
Trump said he flew the family of 25-year-old Tyler Feehan aboard Air Force One after attending the dignified transfer in Delaware, where he honored the fallen service members. Model recruiter Daniel Syed, who allegedly had ties to Jeffrey Epstein, was found dead near Paris before prosecutors could question him. French authorities said investigations will continue after identifying or hearing from 24 potential victims or witnesses connected to that case. Chick-fil-A says accounts from its loyalty program were affected last month when unauthorized bad actors launched an automated attack.
Its Chick-fil-A One program was hacked using credentials obtained from a third-party source. The sensitive information included the last 4 digits of card numbers and saved details like birthdays, email, addresses, and passwords. Chick-fil-A wrote in a letter sent to customers on July 20th that as soon as they learned of the breach, they forced logouts on affected accounts and removed any saved payment methods. The company also restored affected Chick-fil-A One balances and added extra rewards to customer accounts. Regardless, customers are urged to reset passwords. I'm Wendy Swanson.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 6 points, the S&P 500 fell 10 points, and the Nasdaq dropped 146 points. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30+ years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. Also, you can listen to us at wsmn.live and, of course, any number of social media platforms. And, of course, we release this as a podcast after the fact as well. So, yeah, we'll put that out a little bit later. But if you're just joining us, Colonel Chris Wyatt is in South Africa. He was here for the first hour. Of course, it's very late there. He dropped off, and he'll be there the rest of the month. He wants to let everybody know that. But joined by John Grosvenor, holding down the studio as ever. John, how are things going there in Nashua, and how things are going in New Hampshire in general?
New Hampshire seems to be plugging right along. I don't remember the details on some of the bills, but we've got quite a few good things that have happened in New Hampshire. I wished I could give you, details on it because I don't recall off the top of my head. But I haven't been paying close attention, is what I'm admitting to here. But all in all, yeah, New Hampshire's plugging along. Love living in the free state, trying to turn it red.
Right. Well, I thought Florida was the free state, but I guess the New Hampshire was the original free state. Is that right?
Well, live free or die state, right?
Live free or die
there
state.
was
There you go.
there was a study, I think it was a Cato Institute years back, that found that Florida and New Hampshire were the first two free states in the union. But it depends on how you rate that, right? I mean, what do you declare free? Our gun rights are probably second to none. So you got that.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your gun laws up there, and how can somebody carry? Do you have true constitutional carry, open carry, concealed carry? What's your deal up there?
I believe it was Chris Sununu signed that in for true constitutional carry. You do not need a carry permit unless you're going to carry in another state or something. But you don't need a carry permit in the state of New Hampshire, as far as I know, to conceal carry. We were just discussing that last night with the Sean Faber from New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. And
okay.
So, yeah, we got some pretty relaxing laws here as far as gun rights go and stuff. And as you've heard in the past, New Hampshire, I think that too is under Chris Sununu, voted to not enforce any federal laws that we find violation to the Second Amendment.
Right. Well, my thing is why should any state or locality enforce any federal law or regulation, if you will? You're not obliged to.
Some are paid.
Really?
So sometimes we have a federal government, if they're policing and they come in and say, "Oh, we know there's a manufacturer making bump stocks and we declared those illegal." And
I see what you're saying.
Oh, we don't recognize that. I'm sorry, we're not going to offer you our officers to support you to go arrest this manufacturer.
I see.
You're on your own.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's what that
Absolutely.
amounts to.
Absolutely, yeah. And my thing is, if it was okay, if my state's not going to come, if I was manufacturing bump stocks, whatever the case may be, pick something that the federal government doesn't like, and my state tells me I can do it, and I'm doing it within my state, selling it within my own state, or to other places that I can legally sell it to. I really don't give two darns about the federal government. If you're going to try to come in and enforce something, my state says I can do it. You better be ready to go heels, because I'm gonna fight. I'm going to use my guns against your guns. You may win, but I'm not going to surrender to you. That's not going to happen.
Well, that's the nullification.
That will
process,
not happen,
right?
That will not happen. Yeah, I will not go quietly. Not going to happen. I know a lot of people talk a big game about FAFO and all this stuff. Shall not be infringed. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people just fold. Something like that. If I'm well within my bounds, within my own state, community, etc., and you want to come in and try to tell me I can't, yeah, good luck with that.
I think a lot of people are aligning with you, Todd. I think they've had enough. of being told what they can and cannot do. And when you go back, and the thing with that gets me, we were talking about Supreme Court justices and how they rule and come up with decisions and stuff. But a lot of people are looking at things constitutionally that was written in 17. Can't tell me I was 87 or 89. 87 was it was a different language back then. You can't define the Constitution based on language today. You've got to go back and look at the wording and the verbiage and the meaning of the words, the definitions of the words they used in 1787. So when they start talking about regulations like the Commerce Clause to regulate did not mean the hardcore bureaucracy that we have today.
Right.
That's not what that meant by any means. It meant to keep things in proper working order, and for fairness and stuff like that. So the Commerce Clause was based around the idea that states couldn't seem to govern themselves and not charge tariffs on each other and treat each other like they're foreign countries in a confederation. So they created the Commerce Clause to make sure that the centralized government is making sure that the states aren't tolling each other. So it's taken out of context a lot. That Commerce Clause is abused horribly. They twist that thing all the way around to violate your rights.
Right. I've heard a number of members of Congress on any number of committees, there's a science technology committee or whatever. And then there's certain committees regulate this or that or oversee whatever. And it's like, well, my job is to go and do this and that. It's like, no, your job is to ensure that I have the maximum amount of freedoms. And at the same time, making sure the playing field is fair, not to control people or to crush people. It's there to basically make sure that there's a level playing field and that the government's not overstepping. It's not to sit there and get into my business on everything that I'm doing. And that's where a lot of these members of Congress miss the point. They think they have a lot of power. They think they're mini executives, if you will. They're not. They're rule makers, and that's it. Nothing more.
They're legislators. You're right. They're just legislators.
They think that their job is to go
supposed to be legislating on the will of the people. They're supposed to be in touch with their constituents. Have you ever tried to go to DC and arrange a meeting with one of these people? Because you can't.
Oh, many times. Yeah, many times.
Unless you're financing them, it's hard to get. I mean, I've gotten meetings. I've had chance meetings with people like Congressman Bost. That was interesting. That was a fun meeting, actually.
Right.
He saw us, and he's a working class guy. He grew up on a farm. He was driving tractors at 6 years of age, maybe driving them into a barn, but driving them. And he says, truckers, oh, awesome, dude. We gonna meet? All right, let's sit down. He took us to we didn't sit in his office over there where everybody else was. He took us, he had a conference office, because he's chairman and stuff of a committee. So he had a nice size office and stuff. And we sat over there with one of his top aides and was talking turkey, man. We were having a good time.
Oh yeah, I've been up to DC law or advocating on any number of things, especially say veterans issues. And I go speak to some of the members in Tennessee, and it's like, okay, you get your 10, 15 minutes. If you're lucky, for the most part, you may get 5 minutes. But I've been to other members' office that I know and just walk in. They're like, hey, what's up? And you're sitting there talking 20, 30 minutes on real issues, but because you know them, they're going to sit there and talk with you all doggone day. And they know what you're about. I've been to some people's offices and they're like, oh, you're with who? Okay, come on in. I support them. Or I'm a member of that group. Get in here. Let's talk. Whereas, if they know why you're there, sometimes they don't want to get into the nitty gritty with you, especially if they know you're one of their constituents. It's like, they don't want to say something that you may go back and say, hey, they said this in a private meeting, and they said this in an actual, a public forum. It's like, it's two different things. So a lot of times I think they don't want to give too much away because they think you can use something against them. And I don't quite understand that. It's like, if you're going to,
no.
If you have an issue, let's say whatever the issue may be, Second Amendment, and you have a stance on it, it should be the same stance in every meeting. So you shouldn't have to worry about what you say with one group versus another group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they do have to worry about gotcha moments. And
but if you're up front,
you get people from an opposing party wants to set this guy up and say, let's give him a gotcha moment so we can expose him. And what we did is we set him up. It really isn't that we're exposing him. It's just missaid or misworded. And now we got him. So they do have to worry about those gotcha moments.
Sure.
But a lot of times I've been to DC, man, and it's an aide. You get an aide. You're going to talk to an aide. That's what you get. Some of them, so the People's Convoy, I think you remember that. They met with Ted Cruz, went out and met with him. And he was having a sit-down meeting with, I forgot who was it? It was Ted Cruz and another senator had a sit-down meeting with those guys. And truth of the matter is, and this is one of these things, gotcha moments, right? The convoy members were bent on having a transparent meeting. So they had media people there. They had people there from social media platforms and things like that so they can document. But Cruz wanted a private meeting. And what they discovered later on was he wanted to speak more freely, but he didn't. He can't. There's certain things you can't say publicly because of those gotcha moments. You want to be able to speak more freely and confidently without somebody trying to turn it against you. And, well, that senator did this and he's on the opposing team and we should get rid of him. And so, you know, that kind of nonsense does happen. Politics is politics, and they do have to protect themselves.
Oh, for sure. And I speak to a number of state legislators and, you know, and some federal legislators in the past, and they're like, you know, you're not being recorded, are we? And I said, no, nothing like that. I said, I don't do that. I said, if I was going to do that, I'd let you know. I said, you know, we talk about whatever we talk about, you know, but I've had occasion times whenever they ask, hey, I'm not being recorded, Emma. Because they do want to speak freely at times, especially if it's an issue that they really truly support. And like you said, like if they say something that's a little off, and it's like, oh, gotcha, because you said this. It's like, yeah, but you know what they really meant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotcha moments
They're
are
human
BS. I get
too,
that.
you know? Yeah.
I get that.
And it's hard to explain those away. Once somebody's burying you, it's hard to, and the more you try to explain, the more you're going to bury yourself with it.
Right. Because you must be guilty of something if you have to explain it. You know what I mean? Which is stupid.
Yeah. So
You know.
you get it from both sides.
Yeah.
I'm hard on members of Congress, as you can tell, because of my experience.
I am too, and we should be. You look at the state of our society and our world, $40 trillion in national debt. That alone, we should be hard on Congress, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah,
even if they've only been there a couple of terms, you've had time to build coalitions, to work, to try to trend things in the right direction on any number of things. And what have you done? You know, so if you're up there for a few terms, and I'm not seeing any results, it's time for you to pack it up and move on.
Yeah, I forgot this is the angry white guy show, isn't it?
Right. No, but I'm saying if you've been up there close to a decade and you're being insignificant, yeah, you need to move out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No,
but they'll
I
say,
think
"Oh, you need." Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a big fan on term limits. Everybody keeps talking about these term limits. It's gained momentum and stuff.
No, I'm talking about just voting them out in general.
Yes, that to me is term limits.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, because it takes some time. You don't go into Congress and just take over. You got to work your way in.
But I'm saying if you've been up there close to a decade, you
a
should be
decade's
effective.
long enough period of time.
You
that
should be effective at that point. Yeah.
And I think New Hampshire has that problem. I think we have members of our federal government. We only have 4, 2 representatives and 2 senators. And I don't think they're very effectual in Congress. And of course, it may be because we're a small state and population, we don't get recognized as much as other states. I don't know what that has to do with it exactly.
Right.
I don't think it should have anything to do with it.
You know, if you're a senator from Rhode Island, you get the same vote as a senator from California. You know what I'm saying? So your vote's the same in that aspect. It doesn't matter what size state you really have. When it comes to the House, maybe that's a little bit different because there's more members in some states. But in the Senate, you're the same. You're equal.
Yeah, exactly. So the House too, though. I mean, there's people that have been effectual in the House and people that just aren't, right?
Right. And there seems to be just some of the craziest, kookiest, nuttiest people up there. And it's like, you know, you a purple hair weirdo that looks like a crow. And I mean, so many just kooky people. And it's like, whenever they run for office, it's some of the fakest, hokiest people. And it's like, they put on costumes to go take these pictures or do these campaign videos. And it's like, you're the fakest person I've met besides some Hollywood, you know, socialite type people. These are some of the fakest people in the world.
Some of these people are just attention seekers. It's horrible. Purple hair in Congress, looking like you're an octogenarian. It's a little over the top to me. I mean, you know what? You want to express yourself that way. You're welcome to do so. You have a legal right to do it. And nobody has a right to judge you for it. But sometimes I just see it as attention seeking.
Right. Right. And also we got too many emotional thinkers, if you will, emotional decision makers. It's like based on feeling. It's like, no, we should be making decisions based on facts. And your feelings certainly matter to you and your family and other people like that, people who care about you. But when it comes to making hard decisions for everybody, you should base your decision on facts, not feeling, none of that nonsense, you know. And of course, if facts hurt your feelings, so be it. You know, try to change the narrative, try to change what the facts are. You know, if you're not getting enough for your state, whatever the case may be, try to change that, work to change that. But I'm not going to sit there because you emotionally feel that you're a woman or a man and you're not. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, I agree with you. The facts aren't on your side. I'm sorry.
No, you have that. You're right. Emotional intelligence can be pretty low for some of these people, and they ingrain that into our society. through fear-based leadership, like when we saw witness with Don Bolduc. He's over here on our show talking about, I don't want to take away Social Security. I'm retired. I collect Social Security. You think I want to give up something I earned? I'm not trying to take away Social Security. But yet the ads on television, I saw them. Don Bolduc's going to take away our Social Security. It's terrible. And they got people wrapped up emotionally. This is a low level of emotional thinking. People, you're being conditioned. Literally, you're being socially conditioned to be an emotional thinker.
Right. And whenever you go out and do in campaign or, go out and participate in campaigning for other people, and and especially, you talk to people, talk to the voters, you go to a rally, you talk to people, people will give you their opinions on something. It's like, well, here's the actual facts on something. And they pivot to, well, that's not what I've heard, or they said this and they said that. I'm like, I'm presenting the facts to you. You have a smart device in your pocket. You can pull out and do some research, but they pivot to, well, that's not what I heard, or they said this, or I've always been taught X, Y, and Z. And it's like, but that's not factual. There's actual facts. You can go and do some research and get on the right page. But anyway, people don't like to do that. People like to, that cognitive dissonance, it's comfortable. What you've always thought as being the truth or facts, it's easy to kind of embrace that the rest of your life. And people are afraid to get out of that comfort zone, especially people that don't move too far from where they were born and raised. It's like they don't have a worldview of much reality out there. I'm not trying to down anybody that hasn't really traveled. But whenever you travel the world, you see a lot more things. You see a lot more things more clearly as well, because you talk to people. You talk to people from different cultures, backgrounds, etc., and you get interested in doing more research, if you will. And not just the history of the world or whatever, but the history of politics, history of policy issues. I love history myself, and so I have an interest of actually digging into how did we get to the point with, say, abortion as an example. Research that. I love digging into figuring out what's the genesis of all this, if you will. That's kind of my mindset.
Yeah. Why old geezers are cynical, because they figured out everything they've been told in their life was a lie. You have to get to be about 60 something years old, realize everything's a lie. And it feels that way. The propaganda that we've had to put up with politics, or you start looking at things like science, how many things are theory? And you listen to people talk about scientific theory, and it's like you're talking about it like it's an actual truth. You realize it's a theory, it's made up. Nobody knows if there's any truth behind it or not. You can't work with a theory. You just give an idea about it, and you're trying to develop whether it's actually true or not. Everything seems like it's a stinking lie. Even history, the victor gets to write the history book, right? So everything seems to be misled. And then the worst thing is you get people who write history books, and this is where you got to be careful and use discretion about history, is they got a book to sell. So they're going to embellish, It may not be accurate history because they're embellishing, because they got to give you something to get your interest in buying the thing, because most people's past lives are probably fairly boring in the first place.
Right. Oh, for sure. Think about, you go to any VFW hall, and those war stories get taller every time. They get bigger. Oh, we were surrounded by 10 people or 100 people, and then it becomes 1,000, 3,000. It's like, okay, was it the entire army that was surrounding you at the time? You know what I mean? So that those tales do get taller. I understand that, but there's a point whenever you can go back and do a little research and figure out the actual facts. But a lot of people don't like to do that. It's just, where do you begin? What do you want to believe? There's some really good places out there you can actually find that's real. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's just a matter of trusting the sites that you're going to, and not going somewhere just to get your own thoughts or your own bias validated. That leads to ruin, if you will, personal ruin, and of course societal ruin, in my opinion. If we're just going to the echo chambers on social media, whenever I first started on Facebook, I joined some of these chat groups, if you will, about politics, this and that, and I quickly found out that it's people just go there and then they just want to spew on about whatever nonsense it is, whether it's right or left, or, it's the same old nonsense, and it's an echo chamber. I agree, whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's like, at some point, it becomes a little bit too boring listening and talking to the same people over and over. I want to go listen to some other people and hear what they have to say. Like I told you the last few weeks, been listening to some of the more leftist podcasts, because I want to hear what they're saying and what they're talking about. It's easy to turn on, say, Newsmax or Fox News or any right-wing radio show in the afternoon drive time and hear what they're saying. But it's like, what's the left saying? You're commenting on what they're saying. What are they actually saying? So I've been going there to try to get more of, more information from what they're saying. So that way I can go listen to, say, the Fox News commentator, Newsmax, or and I don't really watch Fox News anymore, I can tell you that, but just as an example. So if I do watch those shows and those talk shows and listen to them, I have an understanding of where they're coming from on that anyway.
You're getting opposing perspectives, and that's how you build.
Opposing
That's
perspective. Thank you.
That's how you hone your skills, right? Because now
Right,
you see it from their angle, and you say, "Well, wait a minute. Now there is some truth in what they were saying regarding this, but at the same time, it doesn't fit for this." So you kind of get an idea what you're working with.
It makes it harder for somebody to come up to you and get you in a gotcha moment, if you will, and that way, whenever you speak about, the left, you speak more intelligently. Because I go to any number of campaign events, and you hear people talk about, we got to stop the Democrats, we got to stop this and that. And it's like, well, first off, you live in a very red district, where most everybody who serves is either a Republican and an occasional independent that's conservative sprinkled in there. It's like, is the threat really the Democrats in this area? You're running for a local office. Why are you making the issue about Democrats? So basically what they're doing, they're ginning people up and they're scaring people. And they're never even really talking about their own issues that they're really running on their own platform. They're trying to scare people about the Dems, the socialists are coming. This is that's coming. It's like, really, in Northeast Tennessee, the socialists are taking over. I get they're moving in and infiltrating, but you're trying to run against a threat that's not really there in your local area. Let's talk about schools. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about law enforcement, if you will. Talk about things like that. Let's talk about those issues. Talk about my property taxes. Don't scare me about Dems coming in. Let's talk about property taxes right now being too high. What are you going to do to lower them? What are you going to do to try to alleviate that? That's what we want to hear. Not just about Dems and the left and all this nonsense.
Well,
It's I get it. It works. I get it works at some levels, but at the local level, you're really either in a red area or a blue area. It's really something that you don't need to really jump into wholeheartedly.
Well, it could be a concern. I don't know if you see something happening. People do migrate. They have reasons for migrating. Usually it's jobs or something. But I think, again, here you're talking about something where they're socially conditioned to be emotional thinkers. And basically what they're doing is they're being recruited as a foot soldier in somebody else's agenda or argument in their political party. And this is what I see from both sides of the party is they don't really know what they're talking about. They know what they were told to regurgitate. And you see that a lot. Especially on social media. So when you start getting in depth with some people and say, well, wait a minute, because you said this, and then you try to take it a little stage further and get in depth and see where the range is, you find out they're really just there on the surface. They're like, well, I don't know. Let me just fire in some ad hominems and walk away.
Right. Ad hominem attacks. Yeah. And you see that a lot. And people are basically empty vessels or empty suits. They can get you ginned up and get you scared and point you in a direction. But it's like, why are you pointing me in that direction? Why am I mad? Why am I angry? Why am I supposed to be, going after this person over here or this group over here? What for what reason? Other than the fact you said that they're the ills of whatever ails me, they're the cause of it, if you will. And it's not necessarily the case. A lot of times it happens to do with local policies in your own area that were put in place by people who generally agree with what you agree with or vote the way you vote in many cases. So really your issue isn't so much with Democrats in my area. It's more with the Republicans that are in office. I'm not complaining about Republicans in office. I'm saying when there are issues locally, it's generally somebody of the same party as you for the most part. And of course, Darius asked me, what are some of the narratives and talking points? A lot of it has to do with Iran, of course, is a big part of it. The Epstein files that's a big thing that's fired back up, obviously, because you think about it. Republicans ran on Epstein files in 24, and all of a sudden now we're not supposed to talk about it. It's a non-issue. You're stupid if you talk about it. It's ridiculous. So that's some of the stuff that they're talking about on there, and it's kind of like I agree with them on the Epstein thing. It's like, let's get it out there. The law says it's supposed to be out there, right?
The problem with the Epstein file is that is a point they focused in on because they feel like that's a weak spot they can attack.
Sure.
It's not because they give a crap. It's because they just wanted to attack the politically right. That's what irritates me about that.
Republicans, from the House, Senate, and on up to the presidency ran on releasing this. And now all of a sudden we're stupid if we talk about it. It's like, listen, I'm not looking to play gotcha games. The law says you're supposed to release it. Why hasn't it been released? That's my big problem there. If you didn't want it released, don't pass the law. Don't sign the law. Don't sign it into law, if you will. Don't sign the bill.
Well, John Bolton here made a statement that he feels like we're going to lose the House in the midterms, and he's not certain about the Senate. Do you think this may be why? Is because there's been too many of these issues where the Epstein files weren't released like they were supposed to be, even though Republicans passed it to be released. The Trump administration didn't follow through with it, and they're not being pressed for it. It seems to me there's a couple other things they focus on this Iran issue. Anytime a president causes harms to the general population's pocketbook as inflation, gas prices. And this is why the left focus on. They'll never tell you about the gas prices increase because of Biden, because he was shutting down pipelines and stuff and purposely inflating it. They don't want to talk about that. That's just nonsense talk to them. But Trump, who's actually actively trying to do something to cool issues in the Mideast, suddenly is a bad thing. I don't know how that became a bad thing, but that's a bad thing among them. Of course, it's because it raised gas prices.
Well, you got to think in 2028, we're going to have another presidential election, and whoever's running for that, can't really run on what Biden did or Obama did, 16 years ago, however long it's been. You're going to have to run on what's happened in the last 4 years and also what you plan on doing in the next 4 years. That's pretty much it. You're not going to be able to say, well, Biden did this. Yeah, we know what Biden did. And that's why Trump got elected this past 4 years. So now you're going to have to run on that. Did you deliver on your promises, essentially? And I think we're going to have a hard time in a lot of cases to make that case moving forward.
You think that might cripple Vance's chance or even Rubio's?
Here's the thing. I think it's very, very plausible that's the case. But, here's the thing with the Democrats. The only thing that they have really to offer is basically more of this horrible governance that they pushed in the past. And of course, all their social nonsense. And at the same time, they're going to be able to say, well, I'm not Trump, if you will. If Trump's approval rating is in the tank at that point, they're going to be able to say, well, I'm not Trump. Yeah, but we don't want a Gavin Newsom, for crying out loud, because he's going to be just as worse as anybody else, for crying out loud. What you want is somebody who can stand on their own 2 feet, square their shoulders, and say, this is what I've done. This is where I've not, made concessions, if you will, whenever it comes to the promises that we made. Here's how I've tried to deliver on it. And I think you could win the Republican nomination by doing that. But if you're just basically going to try to run as a Trump lackey, if his approval rating's low, that's not going to work out for you. I don't think so.
Do you hear anything with the Republican Party as far as their targets, what they're putting together for agendas for 2028? Or, are they kind of keeping that? Obviously, they're probably keeping that pretty hush-hush.
Right. I don't know what a party platform might be in 2028. And of course, that'll be built based on a lot of it will have to do with whoever the nominee is and what they want to see on the platform. Because once that person is basically the presumptive nominee, they essentially take over as the leader of the party, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. If you understand, right? Because right now Trump's technically the head of the Republican Party, although he's not the Republican Party chair. He's the quote unquote standard bearer as president, right? And whoever becomes a nominee essentially takes that role over, right?
Yeah, the chair usually operates things, administrates things.
Well, the chair runs the day-to-day party, but essentially the overall person who's in charge of the party is whoever the chief executive is of that party. You say right now, it's like I said, Trump is a Republican, so he's essentially the titular head of the party, or the standard bearer. Although he doesn't have any day-to-day, running of the actual apparatus of the party.
So that means more. Because the left works the same way. So does that mean Biden's still head of the left? We got a chance in 2028, Todd.
No.
Biden's still head of the party.
So Kamala, while she was the nominee, was essentially the head of the party, if you will. Once she lost, obviously whoever the chair is is the titular head of the party at that point. But that's
I like my way better. I knew they were doomed on my way.
Nothing I'm saying is necessarily formal. It's just kind of how you operate.
Yeah,
it's kind of
figuratively, yes. The chairman basically operates things, and the president's seen as figuratively head of the party. And people like Obama still, even today, has a lot of influence among the party.
Right, and he obviously I don't like his policies for the most part, but he speaks. Whenever he speaks, he seems rational. He seems cool, level-headed, and he knows how to speak. He knows how to work a crowd, knows how to talk to people, knows how to get people fired up, if you will. Bill Clinton was the same way. Regardless if I like their style or like their politics or not, it's besides the point. They knew how to work a room, and they knew how to to basically win votes and win people over. And here's a story, and it's in a book. It says. I can't remember the actual name of the book off the top of my head. I'll come up with it here in a second, but it's basically Don't Tell the President Something. It's a recent book about Advance, and I did a lot of Advance, but it's a story going back, and it's a Republican telling this. I think it's a Democrat told the story, because it's Republicans and Democrats telling these advanced stories. And I may actually be, if they do a second edition, I may be actually be able to add some of my stories in the second edition. But anyway, it goes, Hillary Clinton was there, Bill Clinton was there. And this was, I think Hillary was running for president at the time. She found one corner of the room, and she had her staff around her, and she controlled who came to her and got to speak with her. Bill Clinton walked around the entire room and talked to nearly everybody there. And he said that's the difference between a winning candidate and a losing candidate. And of course, and he said that to himself kind of in his mind. And after the fact, Hillary lost. And he said, that's exactly why Bill won and Hillary lost. Hillary thought everybody should just flock to her versus working the room and talking to everybody. And Bill Clinton knew how to work a room, knew how to loosen people's purse strings, if you will. He'd go talk to people about donating money or whatever, and they don't want to donate a little bit. He's like, well, the max donation is this. Why don't we get you to up that donation? He said, you won't regret it, this and that, and he'll promise them, some nonsense, like, I'll come back down. We'll do some photos. We'll come to your house, have dinner, all this stuff, nonsense he's never going to deliver on. But he knew how to work a room and talk to people and get them to max donate. Hillary Clinton didn't have that.
No, Bill was the man. Bill was the man. Matter of fact, Family Guy had an episode. I don't know if you remember the episode. I can't say too much about it on there because of the way the content. But he had an episode about where Bill was messing around with Peter's wife. I can't think of her name. And
Lois,
Peter's gonna go
Lois.
talk to him. Lois, yeah. And Peter's mad. And he's gonna go talk to him. He's like, wow, you are good.
Yeah, he was.
He was all smoothed over. He was the man, and I've seen him here in person in Nashua. I went to talk to him about trucking issues way back when Hillary was running, and I got to talk to him a little bit about it. He told me, he said, yeah, I know them guys over there in OIDA. You know what? I think I may stop down there and pay him a visit, but I watched him as he was working the room and stuff like what you were talking about. He was making it a point to shake hands. I mean, he's reaching over people and reaching out to people. He was sociable that way. He understood the dynamics of reaching out for people and making contact with people. Very, very important when you're in politics.
Oh yeah, there was events in DC, like and I know people he would go to them, and it sometimes it would be a Republican and Dem on a stage talking or whatever, just a bipartisan forum or whatever. They have those ever so often, and they're fairly low key. And of course, Bill Clinton, he talked to everybody, the Republicans and the Dems, and the Republicans are like, man, if this guy was a Republican, he could be the greatest president ever, because he knew how to get elected, he knew how to talk.
Oh, Clinton.
Hold on a second.
Oh, what's going on? All right. Todd had to bug out for a second. I don't know if he had a phone call or what's happening here, but I'd imagine he'll be back in a minute. But yeah, we're sitting there talking about Bill Clinton and working a room there. And I think what Todd was saying is that he may have somebody was making a statement that he may have actually made a good Republican. Giving his policies, maybe not so much, but I don't think he was so far hard left like you see with the parties today. In fact, I recall him one time making a statement that if somebody on the Republican side of the aisle brought a good idea to the table, he was willing to sit down and work with them and listen to what they had to say. And I think he kind of did that from time to time. Although I remember a lot of contention between him and Gingrich when he was president. But all in all, I think he did try to reach out to people. Very highly sociable man. What else we got going on here since Todd bugged up? Man, it must have been an important phone call because the look on his face was like, oh, man, I can't believe this is happening.
Sorry about that, John. Yeah,
that's all right.
Somebody banged on my front door, and nobody comes to my front door, and they banged on it, and they were yelling something or saying something. Well, he was actually trying to sell me something.
Oh, so it wasn't a pizza delivery?
No, it was not.
You know what a pizza delivery is?
And I sorry, I shouldn't show that on the air, but
yeah, Facebook prohibits that.
So
what was that you had there?
Oh, that's a 9mm, by the way. And I don't normally answer my door like that, but he banged on the door and I could hear him yelling something or saying something. And I was like, what the heck is this all about? Some yahoo out here. Whew. No, I'm good.
Major. Do you live in a rural area or are you more city?
No. It's a neighborhood. I mean, it's not in the city limits. It's a neighborhood. But
So it's a little more
almost
rural.
nine-
It's not
but-
country, but it's more rural.
But hear me out here, John. Almost 9 o'clock at night, somebody shouldn't be coming to my door trying to sell me something. You know, it's
Well,
almost dark out there.
That is kind of late for a salesman. But then again, the husband's usually home after 6 o'clock. So, you know, you don't want.
Well, I don't have a husband, John.
Oh, well, you mean you're not the husband?
I don't have a wife either. So either way, I'm not the husband.
I never known whether you. I assumed you were the husband. But I'm thinking that's the logic of the salesman. I wasn't specifically you. So
he's trying to sell fiber
that is
optic,
just
and
your.
I'm like,
that is just your assistant that I know that hangs around from time to time. Like I saw you talking to
no,
me when you're covering your mouth.
That's my lady friend Carrie. That's
Your
my
lady
special
friend
lady friend Carrie.
Oh, okay.
Girlfriend. I say special. She gets mad when I say that. So.
Oh, that's
my
why you're doing it. It's kind of an inside joke.
Yeah. What special lady friend? That comes from the Big Lebowski, the dude. You know, it's my lady friend, man.
I've never watched that. I hear people quote from.
You got to
that.
watch it. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's funny. But yeah, almost 9 o'clock at night. Almost 9 o'clock at night. He banged on the. I don't know if you could hear that. Could you hear it?
No, didn't hear. I just saw the look on your face, like, well, I thought you were the way you leaned forward and your mouth dropped.
Banged
I thought
on
you
the
were looking at
door.
the phone like you got a phone call.
No, banged on the door, and I could hear him talking. He said something, and I was like, don't come to my door like that at 9 o'clock at night. And so I had my pistol right by my side, ready to go. Yeah.
So how did this play out
you
exactly?
Never know, because there are people that are, you know, crackheads, if you will, meth heads, and you know, that'll walk up and down this, not my street necessarily, but Main Street, just a few blocks away. Basically, they'll walk all kinds of hours at night, and they'll go probe houses, if you will, try to see if somebody's at home. You know, don't do that.
So how did this play out exactly? Did you leave your studio, exited the door into a full roll right behind the couch with the head pop up?
No, I
scoot over next behind.
Where I keep my sidearm, I won't say where. I quickly racked it, went to the door. He didn't see it. I kept it off to my side, but it was at the ready. He was far enough away from the door at that point. You know, he told me what he was there for. He tried to walk back up to the door. And I stopped him and said, I'm good. I don't want your stuff. Thanks for coming by. And that was it. Don't come by somebody's house at 9 o'clock at night. Come on now. That's stupid.
There was an old standard like that, right? You didn't do solicitations after a certain hour dinner time.
Right.
You didn't make phone calls after a certain hour or before.
Now it's all hours of the day, spam calls.
Oh God, yeah, I get them on Sundays. I'm like, why am I getting spam calls? I was thinking that the other day. Why am I erasing messages for spam call? I don't answer my phone unless I recognize the number. If you're not programmed in my phone, the chances are I won't answer it. You'll have to leave me a message. Providing I cleared out all the messages, not my messages, my message base. But yeah, so I'm just had enough. I've had enough of the spam. I've had enough of the garbage. So if I don't know you, I don't answer. Sorry. If you send me a text message saying my last 4 digits are this, I'm giving you a call, I'll probably answer then.
Right. Yeah. If you're somebody legitimate, I'll call you back. No problem. But you know, don't call me or come by my house 9 o'clock at night. But anyway, it's election season here in Tennessee. I mean, I'm sure it is everywhere right now, but we have early voting going on. So the spam calls are coming in a lot more right now. You know, vote for me. So here's a survey. Here's a this, here's a that. A lot of the spam text is coming through as well. You know, most of it's just nonsense. You know, don't call me, don't text me. I'm good. I know who I'm voting for. I do my research. I don't want to donate money to your cause. If I do, I'll seek you out.
Yeah. It's like having a website. You get these emails all the time about how they can help you improve your website. It's like if I wanted to improve
Thank you.
website,
I get it all the time.
I would have notified you. I didn't need you to notify me.
Right. We did an analytics check on your website, and we're finding this, and your customers can't. First off, I don't have customers. I have my website because I do things publicly. I want people to be able to know who I am. I'm in public office. I've ran for office. That's why I maintain a website. You know what I mean? So people can find me. You know, I write books. Sometimes people ask me to come do speaking engagements, if you will. And I also do a monthly roundtable discussion group for breakfast, you know, where I get members of the public to come, you know, and usually it's basically it's around civic life, if you will, not just politics. You know, sometimes I'll have the chief of police come, a sheriff that has come, you know, any number of state reps have come, state senators have spoken. So that's something that I do as a civic project. So that's another reason why I maintain a website.
So this in itself is interesting. So do you do this as Todd McKinley, or do you belong to an organization besides the American Legion?
Oh no, I'm a life member of many organizations. So I'm active with the American Legion for sure, but I don't maintain my website for anything American Legion related specifically. Although I do have a blog on there.
Well, no, but you
Right.
said you do the breakfast what, once a week, once
Oh
a
no,
month
no,
or
that's
something?
me personally. Sorry, yeah, that's a personal project. Yeah, I call it the
Oh,
Northeast
nice.
Tennessee Community Roundtable. Before that, I had it. It was called the Veterans Coffee Roundtable, but a lot of people thought it was only open to veterans, so I kind of halted it doing under that name, revamped it a little bit, gave it a rename, spruced up the logo, and of course rebranded it the Northeast Tennessee Community Roundtable, where it's that way people know that it's open to kind of everybody, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You want to invite the public and not just, I mean, veterans are nice, but most veterans already understand too. I hope.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
for
yeah,
sure.
no, a lot of people do that. One time, my wife and I were at a diner, out towards Amherst on 101, and there was a group there. They opened up with some prayer and stuff like that, and they were talking. You know, it was, I don't know, it was a conservative group that I could pick up that much, but it was kind of nice to see a group of people get together and just kind of talking about politics and things that are important in society
Right.
or community and community involvement and things like that. It's pretty awesome.
Good stuff, yeah. And I do it because you think about civic life in America is really in trouble, if you will. You know what I mean? Um, People don't vote. People don't understand the issues. People don't understand the basics of what local government does versus state and federal government. They think government's one big thing. It's not that. And they don't understand the different branches of government. They don't understand what's going on in their own society. What your local sheriff does. What's his role in daily life. Local chief of police who I've had come and speak. Fire chiefs, if you will, what's going on that you can get involved with, as a citizen. What are some things you should know? I've had city mayors come, county mayors come and talk, and talk about different projects that are going on, things that they should know. Basically, just to inform the public. That's kind of why I do it, and also to spark interest in getting more people active. And there's a few young kids that come. Ellie and Anna, that's Carrie's kids. They come and they love it. They love it meeting the adults that come and some of these elected officials and just people that are in nonprofits come and speak as well. It's just trying to grow it, but it's a work in progress. But trying to get people involved in local life is just really why I do it.
Yeah, no, that's good work, man.
Yeah,
I
just
like it.
trying different stuff. And actually, while we were sitting here in the first hour, I got a text from, speaking of American Legion, my post commander texted me. He goes, "Hey, had the first vice had to quit for something. Would you want to take it?" I said, "Effective immediately." He said, "Sure." I said, "Sure, I'll take it." So I'm now the first vice again of my American Legion post again. So can't get out of it.
I'm not
Once
sure.
you're out, they pull
You'd
you
have to
back in,
explain.
right?
You have to explain to us not to know what is the first vice.
So the first vice is the number 2 at the post level, at the local level. You do essentially. There is a formality of things that you actually do. One is dealing with membership and other things like that. And I'm pretty sure I'll have a broad range of things I can do, dealing with local media and stuff like that. Doing interviews and of course doing things to try to grow the post, get more members. And people aren't joining veteran service organizations these days. People aren't joining civic organizations like they should.
Mhm.
Back in the old days, you had a Kiwanis Club, a Lions Club, Optimus Club, something like that. People were involved in. Now people just aren't joining, and you think about it, the rise in drug abuse, broken homes, people incarcerated. I think there's a direct correlation to what's going on in your community. If you don't have community programs, clubs, and organizations, scouting programs, things of that nature, you tend to have society that falls or goes down the tube, if you will. And we're seeing that across the country.
Yeah, no, the Masons were advertising for people to join and get involved, and they were having a hard time getting members too. A lot of organizations anymore, as you said, are having a hard time.
Right. Well, that's what Liquid
And
Laser here in our comments said.
I think it's generational, to be honest with you. I think Generation X is pretty much growing to be the elderly generation, and I don't think we were brought up to be involved in civic involvement so much. We were brought up on punk rock, man. I mean, it was Black Flag and Ramones, and Ramones turns out is actually a leftist
more
band.
independent, right? But you got to think about this. Yeah, independent, this rugged individualism, that works to a point, but there is a point where you're going to have to live within a community. You're going to have to rely on other people, and you want to ensure that those other people are intelligent enough and have the same values as you do. I think about it. You're going to have to go to a hospital at some point, maybe. You have to go to a doctor. You're going to have to go buy groceries or anything. You're going to have to do things with other people in a society. You want roads, good roads. You want low crime and things of that nature. To do that, you're going to have to work inside a community. This idea that individuals can just do everything, that may work
No,
in
man,
some
that's somebody
circumstances.
else's job, man. Somebody else has got to fix all these problems. Somebody else
Right.
needs to go to Congress and get things taken care of. Why should I get off my butt and do anything? All I want is change, man. This is the
Right.
attitude I hear, right? All I
And
want is for
people-
somebody to fix it. I don't want to have to do anything to fix
Sure.
it.
Right. And I don't have to pay anything to fix it either.
Yes, I want it for free.
Right. Want it for free. Why can't government just do this? They have all the money. No, they don't have the money. Yeah, they can print money, which is nonsense, which creates inflation. But the money comes from the people through taxation. And, some people want to get rid of taxation across the board. They want to get rid of governments. And, it's like, that's foolish. I
Anarchy.
believe in a
That's-
very limited government. The fewer taxes we can possibly, taxes and fees, etc., we can have, the better. But we do need some taxes, some fees here and there, and you do need some level of government at different levels, local, state, and the federal level for sure. If not, it's just a free for all. And with billions of people around the world, that's not sustainable.
Unfortunately, government is a necessary evil.
Correct.
We have to have it. Problem is, we're looking for good governance. Nothing wrong with our form of government. The United States has a great form of government on state levels, on federal level. It's wonderful. We get the wrong people in there and they're messing everything up. They want what they want. They don't want to do what's right. And this is the problem when we talk about corruption. We can make billions of dollars if we just screw the American people over just one more time, man. It's just one more time. That's all. One more time, and we're $9 billion richer, guys. Who's on board, right? And they're all hoorah, and we're over here wondering why they're passing this weird bill that's going to screw us all over. That's not what I voted for.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So
you voted for an even playing field, and of course, where people should pull their own weight, right? Teddy Roosevelt said, we've mentioned Teddy Roosevelt a couple times here. He said the first requisite of a citizen is that he will pull his own weight, basically, right?
He also said that you need to be a man in the arena.
Man in the arena, absolutely. Bully.
That was a man in the arena speech. Yeah. And he had a good point. If you don't like what you got to get involved. If you're not going to get involved, well, you heard what Ben Franklin said. We've all heard it. You deserve the government you get. And if that means you got a dictatorship, a socialist dictatorship turning communist that's going to dictate your lives to you and repress you and rob you of all your wealth, then because you sat on your butt and did nothing about it, you deserve what you got. He was point blank about it.
Right. For sure. You got it. Yep. So we got a few minutes here left, folks. We're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We're live every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 Eastern. We help try to bring you back to reality. We are the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Todd McKinley. I hold down my own home studio in Northeast Tennessee. Colonel Chris Wyatt, usually in Central PA. He's in South Africa, was with us in the first hour. Of course, John Grosvenor, as always, in the studio. And it's getting dark there now, John.
I was going to say, in the studio and in the dark. I started using this camera because it was working well again. And I noticed when the daylight drops out behind me, then it gets dark in here and you can barely see me. I don't mind not being seen. In fact, I prefer it, but I know it might feel a little weird for you being all bright and stuff, and conspicuous. And you like the attention, do you?
No, I can see you fine. It's fine. No, wait, we don't need to really see anybody's face. It's not like we're on television. We only we stream this as well, folks. So for the radio audience, we do stream this, and of course you can see our lovely faces if you want to. If not, it's all right with me too.
I know somebody watches on their TV because I have to put it out there every Wednesday. My wife. So yeah, we are on a TV somewhere, but yeah, these things can be streamed. YouTube is definitely on Roku and Google, and if you got Roku and Google TVs, you can do it. I was looking for a comment here because somebody said this earlier. Ellen, I think, was it Ellen? Wow, I guess that comment got up there quite a ways. We get a lot of comments here.
I like this.
They made a statement about it'd be great if they could be sitting in a bar having a beer watching this on TV.
Yeah, right. I don't know if anybody will watch this at a bar. I don't know if I'd watch it at a bar, for crying out loud. I'd be more focused on.
What are you talking about? We're the Common Sense Conservatives. Of course, everybody wants to be in a bar having a beer and watching this. In fact, you know what? I'll grab a beer and drink one with you right here on the show. Only one.
Well, technically we could, right? I don't
Technically,
know.
there's nothing illegal about it. I'm not sure, about the 6-1 down or something. We might not be too coherent, but.
But anyway, I also want to give a shout out to Billy Painter, who helps us, release this on other platforms as well, with especially as a podcast. Right, he does a heck of a job.
Yeah, here's the comment. Alabala. You know what would be? Well, you know what would have been nice watching this at a bar, drinking a nice cold beer, but it should be on TV.
There you go.
I mean, you could take your cell phone to a bar, bro.
Right,
As long as he
yeah.
was talking about us, I mean, sometimes they're talking to each other, and maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Right.
them.
We
Maybe
share
he's
it
talking-
throughout a number of social media platforms that are out there.
Oh yeah,
I shared on
Facebook,
mine as well.
X, even Vaughn. I put it on Vaughn I don't even check to see if I ever have any views on Vaughn either. I just throw it on there. A lot of people are going, Vaughn, what's that?
Man, yeah. Last week I had to change. I had to regain control of my X platform or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. I got a text message from somebody locally said, "Hey, I think your Twitter's been hijacked." You know, I said, "Oh, I wonder what they put out there." It took me a couple of days to get back in, and they put out a bunch of this, adult sites, and then it was sicko stuff.
Oh man,
They got me pretty good. I had to delete all this stuff, and that's one of those things where I'm not on there. Like the past few years, I've really not even bothered with it occasionally, except for to share this show. And if you look at my repost are from Billy Painter. Basically, whenever he puts the show out, I just repost it. That's pretty much the only tweets that I've done over the past few years, really, for the most part. And then all of a sudden to see all that on there, I'm like, oh geez. So I had to delete all that, change my password, all this stuff. And then I went through and started deleting a lot of people that I follow, because some of them just either were bots or people that hadn't been active in years. You know what I mean? So I'm cutting down on who I'm following, and only if you're really posting stuff that I'm interested in, I'm going to keep following. But a lot of it's just nutty nonsense.
That's what I don't like about the X platform is people will follow you with the anticipation you will follow back. And if you don't follow back, they get angry and come back and unfollow you. It's like, if you like the content, follow. If you don't like the content, don't follow. But don't send me a follow expecting me to follow you back simply because you wanted a follower.
Right. And that platform, whenever I got on it, I think during my 18 campaign, 2000 for Congress, that's whenever I got on it. And, I was like, well, I need to be able to reach people. And of course, come to find out, there's so many people, that you're just not going to reach on there. It's kind of a dead platform in many respects, I think. But you're not going to reach enough to run a congressional race on there unless you're somebody that's a big name. I think
they're all that way anymore.
Grassroots campaign on social media, it's hard.
Oh.
You have to go door to door, and you have to get in front of people.
Yeah, you have to do it the traditional way.
Right. You can't rely on social media for sure. John, what's up for you the next week? We got about a couple minutes left, I believe.
Oh, what's up for me next week? Well, work, man. I'm all about work these days. I'm trying to bust my butt and get stuff done while the weather's good. Working on the house, trying to work on cars. I never get to the cars, man. I'm always having to do too much on the house and keep a truck running because I want to drive the truck and make money with it.
You had your truck was down for a while. Is everything good to go?
Yeah, I would like to say yes on that one, but no, it needs head work on that one. So we had another truck that needed to be brought up. I did a lot of wrench turning on that truck. That one's a Freightliner, and I actually kind of like it, man. It's got a C15 cat in it, so it's got some romp, and it's got the 18 speed, and I love driving an 18 speed. You can't get my hand off that gear shifter, man. Just shifting that thing up and down the roads.
It's fun to watching guys at the 18 speeds from a dead stop that just working those gears, man. So cool. It's so cool.
It is kind of cool driving them trucks, man. You feel deprived when you get something like a 9-speed and automatic. Forget about it. Somebody was telling me, hey, I got a new job, John. You ought to come over and check it out. It's a good place to work. They put me in an automatic. I'm like, yeah, you can keep it.
I was at a truck stop one time. And I watched two guys argue. One guy was in an automatic. He's like, "I'm a gear jammer. I got 18 gears out there. You're not a truck driver." He's like, "Because he drives an automatic."
Oh God, one of our favorite terms for
some
years
of those
in trucking is
man.
You're nothing but a steering wheel holder. That's all you are.
Yes.
You don't know nothing about trucking steering wheel holder. Get away from me. That's like
there's a real trucker here. I'm a real trucker.
But
that's kind of true, man. Those old timers, man, back in the day, they used to handle that steering wheel for crying out loud. And not this modern power steering that they have, right? You have modern back in 60s and 70s. Those
power
guys.
steering was a big thing when it came out, bro. I mean, talking about steering the truck with one